Hello again. I'm back with another update on my 2006 Chevy Impala SS restoration project. And what you're looking at there is the right hand side inner rocker panel section. And if you remember from the last video last month, I had that thing on a bench, and it looked like what was barely left of a rusty hunk of junk. And I took and repaired that. And so anyway, what you're seeing here, these are my new rear subframe rails, and they're just mocked up into place because all of this stuff has to tie together. So I have to get it all fitted and make sure it's going to be right. So I've got the left-hand side is it's just tossed in there real quick, just for a quick mock-up, because I had to just double-check a couple of things. It's not even completely clamped in. And there's a new subframe, rear subframe rail there, and I'll go under here. And so here's my repaired rocker panel, and you know what this has to do is it has to match. I've got a brand new one. I bought the last one you could get from GM, and then here's how it ties in. This is a piece that I made that's got a bridge from the floor, and this piece approximately goes in there, and that's going to make the overlap connection. It welds to the top of this. It's got to make the overlap connection to the trunk floor, which is completely out. So I have these subframe rails are just clamped into place there on either side at the end panel, and they're clamped into place over here. So anyways, yeah, like I say, I had to kind of rebuild what was left of this, and you can see it was more than one half gone. The bottom half and the whole back end, I had to pretty much make that from scratch. The lucky part was that the top part, that's the hard part to replicate, that was all savable. So I cleaned it up, and then I had to Frankenstein it together here. So you see the weld, it goes along here, and it goes along in the middle of there, and it comes out down here, and it goes down low, and it comes over there, and it's more weld going across there. And you see these two contours are important because they have to they're going to spot weld to these, which are these are actually the seat mounts, the rear of the front seat mounts there, and the front of the front seat mounts there. And so this all becomes structural because being a unitized chassis, the whole darn thing all welded together becomes a rigid unit. So anyways, I have my my reinforcement is made where I had to you can see the end of it there, 2x4 tubing, and it has the top part on. I suppose you can get a better look at it here. I don't know. And it has the top section of the reinforcement that had to be cut off of there and grafted on to this 2x4 1/8-inch wall tubing, which runs the whole length of the rocker panel to make it into a structural member. And yeah, it's going to be plenty strong. Don't have to worry about that. So there's the one I made for this side. Same exact thing. Same exact idea. Let me see if I got a light here, and you see the same exact idea where that's all welded to there, and it goes the entire length. And what it ends up doing is it ends up coming through the top to make a you can see it inside of here, to make a triple sandwich to this whole thing. And that's what ties this reinforcement to the entire rocker, to the entire pinch weld all the way across. And then it also it ties to the B pillar here with some heavy stuff that comes out of the B pillar, and that's going to get welded together. It's bolted in place temporarily, and then when I weld it, those bolts don't need to be in there. They'll probably be taken out, and they're bolted here temporarily, and this is all going to be welded. That ties it into the C pillar, and of course it ties into the A pillar here, and lots of reinforcement here. This is all thicker stuff here, and you know, it all goes together there, and this is all just mocked up together now. And I had to put the rear subframe rail in there and make sure it fits, because that has to tie together. You know, this has to tie to this. Let me get back under here again. And yeah, I don't need that here. And then, so I had to make a depression here to make relief for the top of this extension. This welds to here. This is all going to be spot welds, and it does the same thing underneath too. Same exact thing. It welds. So this inner panel that I replaced, and this is 18 gauge, and it just welds to this. And then I added another little bolt here. There's a bolt that goes through the whole thing. Same as what I did over there. I covered that in another video. That bolt is a long bolt. It's just there to line it up. But anyways, that's all fitted together. And what that's for, what that bolt does is it threads. Let me see if I can get over here. So it comes through. I don't, you know, there it is. Okay, so there's a nut. If you can see that, it's welded to. I only have it tacked on now. I have to take it off and finish welding on there. It's tacked on there. There's a nut, and that bolt goes through there. And so what it ends up doing is it ends up, you know, it comes through and it sandwiches the whole thing together. And that was just my idea to create more structural integrity. So you have this piece, and this reinforcement. They're all tied together. This thing makes a, right here, this makes an anchor point for the suspension, the rear suspension control arm. And so that's, you know, that's what makes it all, by the time that's all welded together and the tubs, the wheel tubs weld to this, and it all just becomes one big unitized thing. And then the reason why I put that bolt there is after all the welding is complete, I snug the bolt up, and then I weld the bolt in place permanently. It's not made to ever come apart again, and that will just add a little bit more rigidity, tie the whole thing together. So that's my plan, and that's why I've got, for a number of reasons, I've got to have these two rear subframe rails just mocked up in there and fitted to make sure they're going to fit right. And by the way, these things here, these are, you know, that goes up to the package shelf, and that's actually a structural member too. And the reason why these things are up in the air, I bent them up to get them out of the way. And what these need to do, they actually spot weld. They end up spot welding down here to the trunk floor right in this area. You can see when I bend them back down, they're going to end up down here. And the reason why they're bent up is, you know, that's just temporarily. When I'm ready to put the trunk floor in, then these will be bent back down, and there's a whole bunch of spot welds, and these will be all spot welded into place. And that, you know, that goes all the way up to the package shelf, and that's all reinforced up there, and that ends up being, you know, it's a structural member. The entire chassis, just about everything on it has some kind of structural element to it. So anyways, yeah, getting around to the back here, they have I have some patches I had to make on the end panel. There's a patch there, another patch there, and these two patches here. This is just some odd stuff where I had a real bad rust out here, and another one right there, totally hidden. And what that comes from is right here. This is just plastic here, but this rubber outer bumper shell, when it's bolted on there, this plastic piece on both sides, it just rubs on here, and it rubs on there hard. When you bolt it down, you know, it rubs on there hard enough that all the paint was gone, and there was two neat and tidy, real bad rust outs, one right there, one on either side, and they're caused just by that. And it's what I'm talking about, you know, before, about how you have all these hidden areas on these cars. I guarantee there's probably about 10,000 other Impalas that were driven in the Rust Belt have the exact same hole, okay? Because that's basically that's what happened when the factory bolted that together, and it just rubbed through the paint there. And what'll happen is when I bolt this back together, I'm going to have to put something here that'll protect that. I got some ideas, like a little sheet of Mylar. I get the Mylar from used drum heads. Actually, that plastic Mylar sheet is very durable material. You can make little gaskets out of it and stuff. And I can make a gasket in here that comes down here and just covers this whole area, and you know, protects it from abrasion, and apply, you know, tough coatings, anti corrosion treatments, so forth. So anyways, yeah, and then you know, these spot welds here, these are pinch welds that are split open because the trunk floor actually, it makes like a tongue and groove inside of there. Both sides, got that there. So those are split open, cleaned out. Any little bit of rust in there was all cleaned out. When the trunk floor goes back in, that slides in there. You got to pinch that back together, plug weld back together. And of course, when I get over here to make these pinch welds, they all have to be plug welded back together. And I've got here's a handy little tool. These clamps here, these are made for plug welding. So you just clamp that on there, and what that does is, you know, that gives you a pair of jaws that holds everything tight right around where you're going to make that plug weld, so it won't walk apart on you. And then you know, for something like this that goes all the way across, you just take a little piece of copper and clamp that in there, pinch the whole thing together. Of course, this will all have to be, I got to dolly all this out. It's all got to be straighter than this. It'll all be hammered and dollied out nice and straight. This is all rough for now, and it's all got to be hammered and dollied out nice and straight. And you know, this too, you know, because when I split it apart, it's all got to have any little bit of rust in there cleaned out, and this stuff will all need to be hammered and dollied back straight and nice, neat, and tidy, so it'll all clamp back up together and you know, look like it's supposed to. And you know, I've got a plan for a skin to come down here, and it's just going to stop right at the bottom. It's just going to stop right at the bottom, and it'll be open. And the reason why is so I can shoot coatings with a snorkel up through that gap. There'll be a gap here. I can shoot up in here because this weld is going to need to be coated from behind after this weld is made here all the way across. And the whole thing, it doesn't matter what it looks like, because the whole thing is covered with a plastic beauty cover. The whole rocker is all finished out with a plastic beauty cover. So what you have underneath here, its appearance is irrelevant as long as it's, you know, it's got to be structurally there. And then that gap, after I've coated, my plans are to fill that gap up with caulk, so it'll just be all plugged up solid with body caulk. And then of course I've got some repairs here that you know, like this was the only hole that was visible from the outside of the vehicle on a walk around. This is why I tell people too, you know, people will say, oh yeah, I only got one spot where there's one little rust hole. The car's got hardly any rust. And I tell them that one spot that you saw is just the tip of the iceberg. And you know, when you tear that car apart, you're going to find out, you know, all you're looking at, you're not even looking at 90% of what's rusted. You might be looking at like 1%. Okay, compared to what, you know, yeah, this was all that was visible. And actually the hole here was not that large either. It was only like big enough to put two fingers through. But by the time you clean all the bad metal out of here, it's a much larger opening. And so this has been patched, and it's rough, and I still have some finishing out to do here. This magic marker line, I don't know if you can see that, but that is actually, if you see, that magic marker line is actually where there's a body line there. So if you go to the other side here, all right, so that's what it's got to end up looking like. you know, there's a line here, and it just comes down to here, and it fades away. Right when you get down here, the last maybe 3/4 of an inch or so, it's flat. That you know, there's a definite line. It comes, you know, follows the wheel opening arch, but then it comes over here and it just fades away and becomes flat here. And so I got to do the same thing on the other side, and it's roughed in, but it'll need a little more hammering, and I'll put some gloss black, some junk paint over it so it looks better. But I've got to make that line here, and you can see the magic marker is where I've outlined it, and you know, and you can see where it follows it. And like I say, the line's got to disappear right about there and just turn into flat. And what I have, you know, what I have to do here is get this metal worked as best I can, and then you know, finish it out with body filler. And you know, here's another thing for those of you who think that you can always find Bondo with a magnet. No, you can't. I can prove it to you. Okay. What a magnet can find is excessive Bondo, or it can find a hole that's just been filled in improperly with, you know, some kind of plastic filler. So I have a magnet here, but I can show you something out here on my truck, a hole that I already patched. So anyway, what you see right here, there is a welded patch, and the weld goes right across here where I'm taking my finger. Okay, there is Bondo. There's Bondo that finished it out all the way from, you know, the very bottom of this little dorsal fin here up to about this area. You have to feather it out wide. So there was a big hole here. There was a big nasty hole, and it was the only hole on the sheet metal that was visible. There were other holes like under the cladding and stuff like that, but this was the only hole. You know, it's one of those things. Oh yeah, my truck's only got one little rust hole on it. Yeah. You know, anyways, there's a lot more than that. I can, you know, trust me. But anyways, here's a refrigerator magnet. That's all it is. It's just your plain refrigerator magnet. Well, I'll just stick it right to that. Okay, there is Bondo there. You would not know. Okay, you would not know if I did not tell you. Okay, there it is. It's just hanging around there. I promise you, there is Bondo there. Okay, here's another thing. This gas door, the fuel door here, that's stainless steel, and it won't stick to that. And yeah, the reason why I replaced the fuel door is because the rust hole, it actually took a bite out of this fuel door too. So I got me a nice little trick one made out of stainless, non-magnetic stainless. Won't hold it. Okay, but like I say, oops. Okay, there you go. I promise you, there is Bondo there. Okay. And that's the only place. But you'd never know it if I didn't tell you. I don't care. You think you're sharp and you can go around. I can find a Bondo with a magnet. Well, no, you can't. Not if it's done right. Here's what a magnet will find. It will find excessive Bondo, improperly done Bondo. If you keep the Bondo no thicker, you know, maybe about 1/8 of an inch maximum. Okay, the magnet will still hold through the Bondo, and you will not detect it. Now, you may be able to detect it with these, you know, they have these little electronic devices that will detect paint film thickness, and so it can tell you how thick, you know, it can tell you how thick everything is. And, you know, there's paint film involved. I mean, when I painted that truck, there's the clear coat, then there's the base color coat, and then beneath that there is primer surfacer, and there's some thickness to that. That stuff is made to be built up so you can sand it and smooth out minor imperfections and so forth. And so anyways, you know, but that's the point I'm making is, so when I get done here, I promise you this will be just like, you know, it'll look totally undetectable. Trust me, it's got to look undetectable because it's black. If you're going to finish out, you know, a repair on a car and it's going to be black, it's got to be straight. And, you know, I can tell you right now, you know, you probably couldn't see that well because it was dirty, but that repair on the truck over there is absolutely undetectable. It's absolutely perfect. There is, you know, you'll never find it unless I tell you it's there. You're not going to find it with a magnet. You're not going to find it by looking at it. So anyways, so that's my plan. And then, well, what's going to happen is I've got to, now that I've got all this squared away and I'm pretty satisfied with how it fits together, then this rocker has all got to get put together. These come out. Okay, these don't go in till last. First thing I got to do is put the rockers together, and they're all solid and everything. And then when they're all put together, they are rigid, and so then these can now, the rockers can now support the body. You know, because right now the rockers cannot support the body. So then, you know, I can take the lift and I can put it underneath the rockers, because I'm going to need to take these stands out of here, because these stands are occupying the area where the wheel tubs need to go. So I have to change how I'm supporting this and support it, you know, in the center by the rocker area. Once the rockers are all built up back solid, that'll be the first step. And then the next step will be get these tubs all fitted in there and stuff. And then, you know, even before that happens, this whole, everything you see has got to be covered with this silver slather coat. So everything, I mean everything, this whole floor and all these parts, everything's going to be covered with that silver slather coat. And you know, this everything, I mean everything. So it's probably going to be another month or two. All this stuff's got to get prepared, and you know, there's a little bit of rust here and there that needs to be cleaned out of it and everything. And then, you know, the whole damn thing, the inside of it has got to be completely coated. And you know, another thing is, as you can see, this floor, it welds to the bottom of that inner rocker panel. That's where it makes its contact. And then I'm going to have something that welds just a piece of angle that's going to fill in this gap. And that whole thing, it's going to make a pinch weld here, but all of this stuff's got to be coated. And then what you do is, anywhere you need to make a weld, then you're going to have to scrape away some of the coating in the weld area so that a weld can be made. The paint burns around the weld, and then, like I've already shown, I've got plans on how to deal with that. So, you know, I get the whole thing coated, get the rockers put together solid, get the thing supported by the rockers, and take these stands out. You know, these subframe rails will not be in there. Get the prepared. These are already prepared and coated. The tubs, that's 3 of 4 of them. You get them in place, and then once all that stuff's in place, then I'm ready to go ahead and put the trunk floor in. So here's the whole trunk floor again, and it's had some repairs done to it here and there, and it's been completely sandblasted. It's been completely coated. Just, you know, it's multiple coats, this thing, and it'll get one more after that, because all of these welds, like every one of these, this is the length of those rear subframe rails. Okay, this is where it goes. This is the rear. Okay, and that whole subframe rail, and then here's where the tub meets up, and then subframe rail continues, and this is the front of the subframe rail, and all of those holes, they are going to be a plug weld to that subframe rail, and so they'll be burned paint, and that'll all have to be resanded, recoated yet again. And I have other coatings that I have. I've got a strategy for that, and you know, here's a place where I plugged. There was a bad rust through. This is the spare tire well, and I just welded a patch in there. There used to be a water drain plug in there, but I don't think I'm gonna. I could drill a hole in there and put that in there, or not. I don't think I need that, because if it got water in the spare tire, I could take it out with a shop vac anyway. Or, you know, or if it was that bad, I could just drill a hole in there. Yeah, well, after, you know, cross that bridge after you come to it. But no, I don't think it's really necessary here. And so anyway, I just welded that up solid. And, oh, here's another upgrade too. These are stainless steel nuts. What comes through here? This is a wiring harness that comes through here. It's for the rear wheels, the brakes, the wheel speed sensors. There's a harness that supplies the wheel speed sensors for the 2 rear wheels, and it comes from the inside. This is the outside you're looking at, and it bolts to the inside, so I have the nuts on the outside. These are stainless steel nuts, And what it used to be was there was just a couple of sheet metal screws, and I don't like that. What those sheet metal screws do is they just break paint in a rust-prone area, and then they cause problems. So I've upgraded to threaded fasteners, and then the whole thing is coated. The only thing that's bare is the internal threads, and because the nut's made of stainless, then it cannot rust, and there's no paint broken. I did the same thing. I did the same thing here too with this right here. These two tabs, they made up with this, and that's to secure. And this has got to get fixed. I might copy this out of stainless, or I might fix it. I don't know. It has to. There's rivets that hold it in. It comes out of there, but there's a little metal reinforcement. I'll address that later. But what happens here? The OEM fastener is it's a sheet metal screw that comes through here, and then what they had for OEM is they just put a clip nut on there, and those clip nuts, they break paint. You slide that clip nut on there, and it's made out of sharp metal. You slide that on there, it breaks paint. You tighten it up, it breaks paint, and that's why this rusted out. And on the other side, it was gone. I had to make a new tab from scratch on that, welded on there, and then so I'm not going to slide a clip nut on there. I welded a stainless nut of the appropriate threads, so I can put a threaded fastener, a threaded bolt right through there, and hold that piece in place right there. And this will all be coated. The only exposed metal will be the internal threads of a stainless steel nut. So that solves another rust problem. And I make a bunch of upgrades like that. There's places where I weld on a stainless stud in place of there'll be some places like up in the engine compartment, and other places up front on the cowl. And there's a number of places. Wherever I see an opportunity like that, I'll get rid of the OEM fastener and I'll upgrade it to some kind of an arrangement made of a threaded stainless fastener. So I don't know, have I covered everything? Anyway, well, the next thing is after all the tubs are in, then the next thing is that trunk floor has to go in. And another trick I do is you see these bungee cords, and there's another one here. These bungee cords, these are the trick where you have to pull off. You have to put something in there that's pretty large and kind of heavy. It's not too heavy for one guy to pick it up, but it's heavy for one guy to put it in place one end at a time accurately. So what I do is I hang it from bungee cords. I get it hanging so it's close. I hang it, and then from there I can go to one end and get it clamped on there, and then go to the other end and get it clamped on. So I don't have to have an assistant. I don't have to have somebody around saying, "Hey, hold the other end of this for me, will you?" So, because I don't have that, I got to do everything here single-handedly. So that's the solution I've devised for that. And I do the same thing with that trunk floor. That's how I got the trunk floor in and out. Because it's not too big for me to pick up, but it's pretty unwieldy to set it in place in here. Okay, but what I'm going to do is, you get it under the back of this thing, and then you pick up one end of it and hang it from bungee cords, right? So just one end of it, all right, is hanging from the bungee cords, and then all you have to do is pick up the other end, because the end that's away from you is, something's supporting it for you. So you pick up the other end, get it in place, or at least get it close, then go to the other end, go back and forth until you get everything close. And then once the trunk floor is in, I've got these pieces to do here. I've got one of them made, and what this does is it fills in the gap between the interior floor, and it makes the gap under the rear seat to the trunk floor, which the trunk floor is going to just lap underneath it right here. And then there's a section for the tunnel. It's made in a separate piece. This is junk. I've got to copy this. So you got the tunnel section, and I need to make another piece just like this. It has a contour hammered in it to made up with a shape there, and then that's what fills in the gap. And then that's all covered up too, because this thing goes over it. I think I covered this before, but this thing actually goes over that, and this is made out of some heavy gauge stuff. That's about 18 gauge. And this is the original piece. I saved it. It was in good shape. And this goes over that. This is the front. The tunnel goes over that, and this goes over the tunnel section. And this mates up. This side here mates up with the very end of the trunk floor, and this side here mates up with the very end of the interior floor. And that this actually is a structural piece, and this is actually, these are the mounts right here. It's like a T-slot. That's for the front of the rear seat. Goes in there. So yeah, after I get all that back together, then I got to go to the front, because I still have the front sub rails, which are right here, front subframe rails, and they're all coming out because I got brand new ones. If you can see them right there, this is the end of them right here. There's two of them. They've been scuffed down. They need to be solvent cleaned. I scuffed them down. They're just laying under there. But yeah, I got two brand new front subframe rails. So yeah, after I get the whole back end put back together, and that's going to be a little while. But yeah, I've got the back end put together, and I'll have the whole thing put together from the rear bumper to this point. And then after that, I've got to go under here, and the subframe rails for the front have to be pulled completely separated, and I have new ones there that have to be put in. And then you know, then maybe sometime, I don't know, maybe next fall or maybe next spring, I might get around to where I have this thing put together enough to paint the body shell. You know, I've got to do the body work on these quarter panels here, and you know, make that all look pretty enough for paint and everything, and you know, get it prepared. So there you go. That's the update for now, and you know, I'll let you know how it all turns out later on. So thanks for watching, and so long.